Case 1. Jeffrey Spaide, the Snow Shoveler.
February 1st, 2021, 9 a.m., Plains Township, Pennsylvania. A residential street, snow piled high on both sides, the kind of morning where you can hear everything. The scrape of shovels, the muffled thunk of car doors, the particular silence that comes after a blizzard when the world feels wrapped in cotton. The camera's mounted on a house across the street. It's not expensive equipment, just a basic security system that most people install and forget about. The kind that records over itself every 2 weeks unless something happens. Something happened. But before we get to that, before we show you what 47 million people watched in horrified silence, you need to understand what you're actually looking at. What makes someone cross the invisible line between neighbor and predator? This isn't a video about snow. It's not even really about the 3 people you're about to meet. This is a document of the exact moment when the thinnest boundary in human civilization, the property line, stopped meaning anything at all. And here's what's going to keep you awake tonight. By the time you finish this, you'll realize you've walked past this moment 100 times. You've lived next to it. You've waved at it in the morning. You just didn't know what you were looking at. The footage begins unremarkably. A man in his 50s walks out of his house, Jeffrey Spaide, trim build, neat beard, the kind of person who mows his lawn in perfect diagonal lines. He's holding a shovel. He begins clearing the snow from his driveway with methodical precision. The movements are almost meditative. Scrape, lift, toss, scrape, lift, toss. Across the street, 2 figures emerge, James and Lisa Goy, married couple. They're also shoveling, but they're not working in silence. They're talking loud enough that the camera picks up the audio as muffled shapes of sound. Not words yet, just the acoustic texture of conflict. And here's the thing about neighbor disputes. They never start the day they explode. They're geological, layers of small resentments compressed over years until something cracks. The Goys are shoveling snow from their driveway, but they're also shoveling it into the street, specifically into the area in front of Spaide's property. It's not a mountain of snow, it's barely a pile, but it's there, on his side of an invisible line. Spaide stops working. He looks up. Even from this distance, even with the camera's mediocre resolution, you can see the stillness in his body. It's the stillness of a predator that's just detected movement. He walks toward them. The proximity paradox, when everyday disputes become murder. Now here's what most people miss when they watch this video. They see the argument, they hear the profanity, they react to the horror of what comes next, but they miss the architecture of what's actually happening. These 3 people have been neighbors for years. They know each other's schedules. They know what cars belong in which driveways. They know the sound of each other's garage doors opening. This is not a conflict between strangers. This is something far more dangerous. This is intimacy weaponized. The audio becomes clearer as Spaide approaches. His voice is measured, almost bureaucratic. "You need to move that snow." Lisa Goy responds immediately, not with words we can repeat here, but with a torrent of profanity so intense that it feels physical. James joins in. They're tag-teaming him now. Their voices overlap, the cadence of married couples who've rehearsed their rage together. Spaide doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't escalate. He just stands there, absorbing it. And this is crucial. He's not shocked. He's not surprised. This has happened before. This is a ritual they've all performed so many times that everyone knows their lines. Except today, someone's changed the script. Lisa makes a gesture. The camera can't quite capture exactly what she does, but James laughs. It's the kind of laugh that's meant to wound. Spaide turns around and walks back toward his house. If you're watching this for the first time, this feels like a de-escalation. The argument is over. Everyone's going back to their corners, crisis averted. If you're watching this for the second time, after you know what happens next, this is the most chilling moment in the entire video. Because Spaide isn't retreating, he's preparing. He disappears into his house. The Goys continue shoveling. They're still talking, still animated, still riding the adrenaline high of the confrontation. 43 seconds pass. The timestamp ticks from 9:03 a.m. to 9:04 a.m. Spaide walks back outside. He's holding a pistol. And here's where we need to stop, not because of what's about to happen, although that's horrifying enough, but because of what this moment represents. What happened in those 43 seconds inside his house? Psychologists have a term for this, the threshold moment. It's the invisible line between thought and action, between fantasy and reality. Most people live their entire lives on one side of that line. They imagine consequences, they rehearse revenge scenarios, but they never cross over. Spaide crossed over in 43 seconds. The question we're going to spend the next hour answering is this: what exists on the other side of that line? And more importantly, how many of your neighbors have already crossed it? The Goys see the gun. Their reaction is not what you'd expect. They don't run. They don't scream. They mock him. "Lisa, go ahead. Go ahead." The tone is taunting, disbelieving, because in their mental model of reality, neighbors don't shoot neighbors over snow. That's not how the world works. That's not how their world works. They're about to discover they've been living in a world that doesn't exist anymore. Spaide fires, once, twice. The sound is sharp and flat, absorbed immediately by the snow. James goes down first. Lisa tries to run. She makes it approximately 15 feet before Spaide fires again. The timestamp reads 9:04:47. Spaide stands there for a moment. The gun is still in his hand. And here's the detail that will haunt you. He looks around, not frantically, not panicked. He's checking to see if anyone else is watching. The camera captures him scanning the street with the same methodical attention he used while shoveling snow. Then he walks back into his house. 1 minute and 12 seconds later, you hear it, muffled by walls and distance, but unmistakable on the audio track, a single gunshot. When police arrive 4 minutes later, they find James and Lisa Goy in the street. They find Jeffrey Spaide in his garage. He's used the same pistol on himself, execution style, professional, efficient. The entire sequence, from first insult to final gunshot, lasted 6 minutes and 32 seconds. The argument over snow, what they found inside his house. Now here's what the viral video doesn't show you. When investigators entered Spaide's home, they found something that changed the entire narrative. His house was immaculate, military-grade organization, every surface clean, every item in its designated place. He was a veteran, Army engineer, the kind of person who mows his lawn in perfect diagonal lines. But in his bedroom, they found the documents, years of notes, printed emails, photographs taken from his window, a meticulous archive of every interaction with the Goys, every property line dispute, every shouting match, every passive-aggressive act. He documented it all with the precision of someone building a legal case, or someone justifying a future action. The psychologist who reviewed the materials later testified that Spaide had been rehearsing the scenario, not the specific incident, but the concept of the incident. He'd been visualizing the moment when he'd had enough, when the invisible line would break. He just didn't know it would be snow that triggered it. But why did this dispute become lethal when thousands of others don't? And that's the question that's going to follow you through the rest of this. Because neighbor disputes happen every day. Right now, somewhere in your city, someone is arguing about a fence, about noise, about parking, about leaves falling on the wrong side of a property line. 99.9% of the time, nothing happens. But that 0.1%, that's what we're here to document. The Spaide case went viral because of the video, because we could watch it happen in real time, because it was so brutally visual. But it's not unique, it's not even rare, it's just the one that got filmed. The performance artists, neighbors who rehearsed their roles. Let me show you what I mean.
Case 2. Stephen McDaniel, the staring neighbor. June 30th, 2011. Macon, Georgia. A different kind of camera, not a security system, a television news camera, the kind with professional lighting and a logo bug in the corner. The reporter is young, early in her career. She's standing outside an apartment complex doing a story about a missing person. Lauren Giddings, law student, 27 years old, last seen 5 days earlier. Her friends reported her missing when she didn't show up for a bar exam study session. The reporter is doing man-on-the-street interviews with neighbors, getting reactions, building the human interest angle, and she finds the perfect interview subject. He lives right next door to Lauren, same apartment building, same floor. He's pale, thin, the kind of person who looks like he doesn't go outside much. He's wearing a graphic t-shirt. His name is Stephen McDaniel, and he is very eager to talk. She was a very private person, McDaniel says. His voice is soft, carefully modulated. She kept to herself mostly, but she was always nice when we'd run into each other in the hallway. The reporter nods. This is good footage. A concerned neighbor, someone who knew the victim but isn't too emotional. Perfect for the evening news. When did you last see her? Friday, I think, in the afternoon. She was checking her mail. Are you worried? Of course. I mean, this is a safe neighborhood. We all look out for each other. The fact that something might have happened to her, it's unsettling. He's good at this. The cadence is right. The eye contact is appropriate. He's giving the camera exactly what it needs. Concern without hysteria. Familiarity without claiming intimacy. He's performing. And here's the moment that broke the internet before breaking the internet was even a phrase. The reporter's phone buzzes. She glances at it. Her expression changes. She looks back at McDaniel, and you can see her brain trying to process what she's just learned. I'm sorry, she says. I'm getting word that they've found a body. What happens when a killer learns the truth on camera? McDaniel's face does something extraordinary. It doesn't collapse. It doesn't show shock or grief. Instead, it does nothing. Absolutely nothing. His expression freezes, locks. His eyes stop moving. His mouth remains in the same slight downturn it's been in the entire interview. He looks like a computer that's just received a command it doesn't know how to process. A body? His voice hasn't changed pitch. Where? I don't have details yet, but it's in this complex. Silence. The camera keeps rolling because the cameraman doesn't know what else to do. This is incredible television. The concerned neighbor hearing the worst news, except McDaniel isn't reacting like a concerned neighbor. He's reacting like someone who's just realized his carefully constructed performance has been interrupted by reality. Do they know who it is? Not officially, but where in the complex? And this is the question that changes everything, because he doesn't ask who, he asks where, as if the location matters more than the identity. The reporter doesn't answer. She's already signaling to her cameraman. They need to move. They need to get to wherever the police are. This interview is over. McDaniel stands there as they pack up, still frozen, still processing. The camera catches him for a last shot as they leave, standing on the sidewalk, staring at nothing, his face a mask of such absolute emptiness that it looks rehearsed, because it was. What they found in the apartment next door. Here's what the news crew didn't know yet. Police had found Lauren Giddings' body in a trash bin outside the apartment complex. She'd been dismembered, wrapped in plastic bags. The medical examiner would later determine she'd been dead for at least 3 days.
And here's what made the discovery even chilling. The trash bin was 50 feet from Stephen McDaniel's apartment window. He could see it every morning. He'd walked past it every day since he'd placed her there. When police obtained a search warrant for his apartment, they found his laptop. The search history was methodical, clinical. How to dispose of a body. Can cadaver dogs smell through plastic? Trash pickup schedule Macon, GA. He'd also searched for news coverage of Lauren's disappearance multiple times per day. He was monitoring his own crime, watching the investigation unfold. And when he saw the news crew outside, he couldn't resist. He had to insert himself into the narrative. The interrogation footage is legendary in forensic psychology circles. It's used in training seminars, written about in academic journals, because what Stephen McDaniel does during questioning isn't just unusual, it's theatrical. He sits in the interrogation room with the same frozen expression from the news interview. Detectives try every technique. They show him evidence, they appeal to his conscience, they offer him opportunities to explain, to justify, to rationalize. He doesn't move. For an hour he remains absolutely still. Not just quiet, still. He doesn't shift in his chair, doesn't cross or uncross his legs, doesn't touch his face or hair. He sits there like a statue while detectives orbit around him. One detective later described it as the most unnerving interview of his career, because McDaniel wasn't refusing to cooperate. He wasn't lawyering up or demanding his rights. He was simply absent, as if the person who'd performed so convincingly for the news camera had disappeared entirely, leaving behind an empty shell. What was he doing in his mind during that silence? Eventually, he spoke, not because the detectives convinced him, but because, according to the forensic psychologist who reviewed the tapes, he'd made a decision about his next role. If he couldn't be the concerned neighbor, he'd be the misunderstood genius. "You don't understand what it's like," he said. His voice was different now, softer, almost childlike. Living next to someone, hearing them through the walls, knowing they're right there, but you can't reach them. Reach them how, Stephen? She was perfect, do you understand? Perfect, and she didn't even know I existed. So you wanted her to know? Long pause. I wanted to own her. The neighbor who watched for years. Here's what the investigation revealed. Stephen McDaniel had been watching Lauren Giddings for a year. He'd mounted a camera in his apartment pointing at her window. He'd collected her mail when it was misdelivered. He'd followed her to the law library and sat 3 tables away, pretending to study. He knew her schedule better than her friends did, and she had no idea. Because here's the cruel mathematics of apartment living. Proximity doesn't equal awareness. You can live 15 feet from someone, separated nothing but drywall and insulation, and know nothing about them. You hear sounds, you see them in passing, you form a vague sense of their existence, but you don't actually know them. McDaniel understood this. He weaponized it. The detective asked him during one of the later interrogations why he chose to kill her in her own apartment. Why not somewhere isolated, somewhere with less risk? His answer was chilling in its simplicity. Because I had keys. Not to her apartment specifically, but to the building, the laundry room, the storage units. He'd been living there long enough that he knew which doors didn't lock properly, which windows could be jimmied open, which security cameras had blind spots. He studied the architecture of the building the same way he'd studied her. When Lauren went to take out her trash on the evening of June 25th, McDaniel was waiting in the hallway, not hiding, not lurking, just there, walking back from checking his own mail, a neighbor doing a normal neighbor thing. She smiled at him, said hello. He followed her back to her apartment and strangled her with a cord he'd been carrying in his pocket. The entire attack took less than 3 minutes, silent, efficient, and when it was over, he He simply walked back to his apartment, sat down at his computer, and started researching disposal methods, as if he'd just completed a particularly difficult homework assignment. If you've ever lived in an apartment building, if you've ever heard footsteps above you at 2 a.m., or voices through the wall, or the sound of someone's door closing just after yours, then you've already felt what we're documenting here. It's not paranoia, it's not even fear exactly. It's the sudden sickening awareness that the people closest to you geographically might be the furthest from you in every way that matters. That proximity and safety are not the same thing. That the person who holds the door for you in the morning might be holding something else in their mind. And here's why this matters, why you're still watching, why you can't look away. Because the next case is going to show you that it's not just apartments, it's not just strangers who happen to live near each other. Sometimes it's the neighborhood, the street you chose because it felt safe, the community you moved to because you wanted your children to play outside. Sometimes the person watching you is the one everyone trusted. Let's keep going.
The people in this video have millions of dollars to spend on lawyers and PR teams to bury stories like this. They want this video taken down. The only way to beat their algorithm is if you hit like and subscribe. It signals to YouTube that the truth matters. Don't let them bury this.
Case 3. Susan Lorincz, the Ocala Gatekeeper. The invisible predators, those who used keys, uniforms, and routine. Ocala, Florida, June 2nd, 2023. A different quality of footage now, not grainy security cameras or news broadcasts. This is 4K body camera footage, crystal clear, the kind where you can see every detail, every expression, every tear. A patrol officer is walking up to a house, suburban neighborhood, palm trees, neat lawns, the kind of place where people retire, where grandchildren visit on weekends. The officer's body camera captures everything: the number on the mailbox, the ceramic welcome sign on the door, the sound of his knuckles on the wood. A woman answers, white, 60, gray hair pulled back in a ponytail. She's wearing a t-shirt that says, "Life is better at the beach." Her name is Susan Lorincz. "Ma'am, we need you to step outside." Her face does something complicated. It's not surprise, it's more like resignation, as if she's been expecting this knock for a long time. "What's this about?" "You need to come with us. We'll explain at the station." "Am I under arrest?" The officer pauses. You can hear it in the silence. He's choosing his words carefully. "Ma'am, a woman was shot tonight on the other side of your door. We need to talk to you about that." "What happened on the other side of the door?" Susan Lorincz had lived in this neighborhood for 4 years, long enough to be familiar, not long enough to be known, the kind of tenure where people recognized your car but might not remember your name. But everyone knew about the disputes. The neighborhood was mixed, families with children, retirees, young couples just starting out. And for 4 years, Susan Lorincz had been at war with one specific group, the kids. Not any kids in particular, all of them. When they played basketball in the street, she called the police. When they rode bikes on the sidewalk, she shouted at them. When they gathered in someone's yard, she filmed them from her window. Neighbors described her as obsessed with monitoring the children, as if she'd appointed herself the unofficial enforcer of peace and quiet in a neighborhood designed for families. The parents tried to de-escalate. They talked to her. They explained that kids playing outside was normal, healthy, legal. They offered compromises, earlier curfews, lower volumes, designated play areas. Susan Lorincz responded with escalation. She started standing at her door whenever children were outside, just standing there, watching, not saying anything, just creating a presence, a weight. One mother described it as psychological warfare.
Her kids didn't want to play outside anymore, not because they'd done anything wrong, but because they could feel her watching. The woman who died was named Ajike Owens, mother of 4, 35 years old. She lived 3 houses down from Susan Lorincz. In the evening of June 2nd, Ajike's children were playing in the field adjacent to the neighborhood, not on anyone's property, not violating any rules, just playing. Susan Lorincz came out and started yelling at them. The children ran home and told their mother. AJ did what any parent would do. She walked over to address the situation, adult to adult, neighbor to neighbor. She knocked on Susan's door. Here's what we know from witnesses. Ajike was not threatening. She was not violent. She was a mother protecting her children's right to exist in their own neighborhood. Her voice was raised. Neighbors could hear the conversation, but she never touched the door, never tried to force entry. She knocked. She called out. She asked Susan to open the door and talk like adults. Susan Lorincz, standing on the other side of that door, made a decision. She retrieved her pistol. She did not open the door. She did not warn Ajike to leave. She simply aimed at chest height and fired through the metal. One shot, through a closed door, into a woman she could not see. Ajike died in front of her children. What she said when they arrested her. In the body camera footage from the patrol car, Susan Lorincz is crying, not the quiet tears of shock, the loud, gasping sobs of someone who wants to be heard crying, the performance of remorse. "I was terrified," she says between sobs. "She was trying to break down my door. I thought she was going to kill me." The detective in the passenger seat doesn't respond. He's seen this before, the self-defense claim, the "I was scared" narrative. It works sometimes, especially when the shooter is white and the victim is not. But this time there's a problem with her story. The door wasn't damaged, no dents, no scratches, no evidence of forced entry or even aggressive knocking. The forensics team would later testify that Ajike had knocked on the door exactly the way any normal person knocks on a neighbor's door. And here's the detail that destroyed her defense. When AJ knocked, Susan never warned her, never said, "I have a gun," never said, "Leave or I'll shoot." She simply fired. The prosecution would later argue that Susan wasn't acting in self-defense. She was acting out 4 years of accumulated rage at children existing in her neighborhood. And when one of their mothers had the audacity to confront her about it, she decided to make an example. The trial happened in 2024. The footage is public. High-definition courtroom cameras captured every moment. Susan Lorincz testified in her own defense. She wore glasses and cardigans. She spoke softly. She cried frequently. She painted herself as a victim, an older woman living in fear, surrounded by chaos, forced to protect herself. The jury didn't buy it. Ajike's family was in the courtroom every day. Her children, her mother, they sat in the front row and watched Susan perform her vulnerability. And when the verdict was read, guilty of manslaughter, they wept, not with joy, with the exhausted relief of people who've been fighting for justice and finally received the bare minimum. Susan Lorincz was sentenced to 25 years. But what makes someone see children as threats? Here's what the psychological evaluation revealed. Susan Lorincz had no diagnosed mental illness, no history of violence, no criminal record. She was, by clinical measures, a normal person, but she had an inflexible sense of order. She needed her environment to be controlled, predictable, quiet. And when the world refused to comply, when children laughed too loud, when basketballs bounced too late, when families lived their lives without consulting her, she experienced it as an attack. Not a minor annoyance, an attack. This is the pattern we're going to see again and again, not mental illness in the clinical sense, but a worldview so rigid that any deviation feels like a violation. And when that worldview is challenged, some people retreat, others enforce.
Case 4. Daniel Wozniak, the actor neighbor. The deceivers, those who used friendship as camouflage. Let me show you what enforcement looks like when it's planned. Costa Mesa, California, May 2010. The Long Beach Playhouse is preparing for opening night of 9 the musical. It's a community theater production, volunteer actors, local talent, the kind of show where the cast becomes a family over weeks of rehearsals. One of the leads is a young man named Daniel Wozniak, 26 years old, charismatic, talented, the kind of actor who can make you believe anything. And that's going to become very important. Daniel has been dating a woman named Rachel Buffett for years. They're planning a wedding, small ceremony, nothing extravagant. But even small weddings cost money, and Daniel is broke. Community theater doesn't pay. His day jobs barely cover rent. He needs money, fast. He lives in an apartment complex in Costa Mesa. It's one of those sprawling complexes where everyone's front door faces a shared courtyard. You see your neighbors every day. You know their schedules, their habits, their vulnerabilities. Daniel knows that his neighbor, Sam Herr, a veteran just back from Afghanistan, has savings. Not a fortune, but enough. Sam has mentioned it in passing. Money he's saving to go back to school, to start fresh. Daniel decides Sam's fresh start could fund his wedding. The friendly neighbor who became a killer. On May 21st, 2010, Daniel invited Sam to the Long Beach Playhouse, not for the show, just to hang out, to see the theater. Sam agreed. Why wouldn't he? Daniel was his neighbor, his friend. When they arrived at the theater, Daniel led Sam to the attic space. It's used for storage, costumes, old props, dusty and isolated. The kind of place where you could scream and no one would hear you over the rehearsal happening 2 floors below. Daniel shot Sam twice in the head. Then he took Sam's wallet, his phone, and his ATM card. And here's where the performance begins. Daniel used Sam's phone to text Sam's friends and family, pretending to be him. Going on a trip, need some time alone, don't worry about me. The messages were casual, convincing. Daniel had studied Sam well enough to mimic his texting style. For the next 2 days, Daniel withdrew money from Sam's account, small amounts, careful not to trigger any fraud alerts. He went to different ATMs across Orange County. He wore Sam's baseball cap to partially obscure his face from cameras. And then he went to opening night of 9 and performed like nothing had happened. The second victim no one expected. But there was a problem. Sam's best friend, Julie Kibwishi, was getting worried. The texts didn't feel right. Sam wouldn't just disappear. She decided to check on him. She went to his apartment. Daniel saw her arrive, and he made a calculation. Julie was now a liability. Daniel lured her into Sam's apartment. The pretense was that Sam had left something for her, that Daniel had the spare key, that he was just being a helpful neighbor. When Julie entered the apartment, Daniel shot her. Then, in a move that reveals just how calculated this whole plan was, he staged the scene to look like a crime of passion. He partially undressed Julie's body. He left evidence suggesting sexual assault. He wanted police to think Sam had killed Julie and then fled. It was the kind of misdirection an actor would think of, creating a false narrative, leading the audience's attention away from the real plot. Then Daniel went back to the theater for the Saturday night performance. Here's what makes Daniel Wozniak different from the cases we've seen so far. Jeffrey Spaide snapped. Stephen McDaniel was a predator acting on compulsion. Susan Lorincz was an enforcer who'd reached her breaking point. But Daniel was auditioning. He killed 2 people
and then walked onto a stage and pretended to be someone else. He took bows, he smiled at the audience, he went to the cast party afterward and celebrated. The detective who eventually interrogated him said Daniel treated the investigation like a performance review, as if the police were judging his work. How did they catch an actor who never broke character? ATM footage. That's how. Daniel had been careful. He'd worn disguises. He'd chosen ATMs without direct camera angles. But he'd made one mistake. He'd taken his fiancée, Rachel, with him on one of the withdrawals. Security footage showed them together, Rachel in the car, Daniel at the machine, using Sam's card. When police arrested Daniel, he initially denied everything. Then, when confronted with evidence, he tried a different performance, the remorseful killer. I never meant for Julie to die. That wasn't part of the plan. Sam was different. But Julie, I panicked. The detective wasn't buying it. You staged a crime scene, Daniel. You undressed her. You made it look like sexual assault. That's not panic, that's planning. Silence. Then Daniel tried yet another role, the victim of circumstance. You don't understand the pressure I was under, the wedding, the money. Rachel kept asking when we'd set a date. I needed a way out. A way out was killing your neighbor? He wouldn't have missed it. Daniel Wozniak is currently on death row in California. Rachel Buffett, who was found to have helped him hide evidence, is serving 32 years to life. The theater community was devastated, not just by the murders, but by the betrayal. Daniel had rehearsed with these people for weeks, had shared meals with them, had bonded over the vulnerability that comes with live performance, and the entire time he'd been wearing Sam's watch. One cast member said, "I keep going back through my memories of rehearsal, looking for a sign, something that would have told me he was capable of this. But there's nothing. He was just Daniel, funny, talented, present." That's the horror of it. He didn't seem like a killer because he was performing not a killer so convincingly that even he believed it.
We're at the point now where you've seen 5 different types of neighbors turned killers, and you're starting to notice a pattern. It's not mental illness, it's not pure evil, it's not even random chaos. It's something more systematic, more architectural. Let me show you what I mean. In 2019, a researcher named Dr. Sarah Stein at the University of Chicago conducted a study on what she called proximity-based violence. She analyzed over 300 cases of neighbor-on-neighbor attacks, not just murders, but assaults, arsons, stalking incidents, and found a unifying pattern. The perpetrators all used the same 3-stage process. Stage 1. Normalization. They established themselves as normal, unremarkable, the kind of neighbor you'd wave to but never really think about. Jeffrey Spaide with his neat lawn, Stephen McDaniel with his quiet politeness, Susan Lorincz with her beach t-shirts, Daniel Wozniak with his theater friends. They're not trying to be liked, they're trying to be invisible. Stage 2. Information gathering. They use proximity to learn, schedules, habits, vulnerabilities. They know when you leave for work, when your kids play outside, when you're home alone. Not because they're spying in the traditional sense, but because they live next to you. The information is ambient, unavoidable. They're not stalkers, they're neighbors with attention. Stage 3. The crossing. Something shifts, a dispute escalates, a fantasy crystallizes, an opportunity presents itself, and they cross the invisible line between thought and action. This is the threshold moment we talked about earlier, the 43 seconds Jeffrey Spaide spent inside his house, the year Stephen McDaniel spent watching through his window,
the 4 years Susan Lorincz spent cataloging grievances, the 2 weeks Daniel Wozniak spent planning how to access his neighbor's money. They don't snap, they cross. And here's the terrifying part. You can't identify them before they cross, because until that moment, they are normal neighbors. They're not lying, they're not wearing masks, they genuinely are the person mowing their lawn, checking their mail, holding the door. The violence isn't hiding under the surface, it's created by the surface, by the friction of proximity, by the accumulation of small resentments that only neighbors can generate. Dr. Stein's study concluded with a statement that's going to haunt you. The people most likely to harm you are not strangers, they're not even acquaintances, they're the people who share your physical space, but not your emotional world. The people who are close enough to know you, but distant enough to dehumanize you. So when you ask, how did I not see this coming? The answer is that you couldn't see it coming, because the warning signs don't exist until after the crossing. And by then, it's too late. The next 5 cases are going to show you what happens when that crossing becomes systematic, when neighbors don't just snap in a moment of rage, but plan, hunt, optimize, when the architecture of concealment becomes a weapon. If you've made it this far, it's because some part of you recognizes this. Not because you're paranoid, but because you felt it. The unease when you hear footsteps in the hallway at an unusual hour. The way you check your locks after a strange interaction. The small animal part of your brain that knows proximity is not safety. You're not overreacting, you're pattern matching. And the patterns are about to get worse. Case number 5, Lois Riess. The hunters, those who chose their neighbors as prey. Fort Myers Beach, Florida, April 2018. A woman walks into a casino. She's in her 50s, white, blonde hair, dressed like a tourist, floral shirt, white capri pants, oversized sunglasses. She sits down at a slot machine and feeds it $20 bills for 90 minutes. Security footage captures her face clearly. The timestamp is visible in the corner, 3:47 p.m. That woman is not who she appears to be. Her name, or rather the name she's using, is Pamela Hutchinson, but the woman playing the slot machine is actually Lois Riess, grandmother, fugitive, killer. And Pamela Hutchinson is currently decomposing in a hotel room 3 miles away. The grandmother who became identity thief. Let me take you back 6 weeks. Blooming Prairie, Minnesota, March 2018. Lois Riess was known in her small town as Losing Streak Lois. She'd been gambling for years, casinos, online poker, scratch tickets. Her husband, David, a farmer, had been covering her losses for decades. He loved her, enabled her, kept hoping she'd stop. She didn't stop. By March 2018, Lois had drained their joint accounts, forged David's signature on loan documents, stolen thousands from his business. When David discovered what she'd done, he confronted her. She shot him 3 times. Then she transferred the remaining money from his accounts into hers, got in her car, and drove south. Police found David's body 5 days later. By then, Lois was in Florida, still gambling, still losing, still needing money.
Here's where it gets calculated. Lois didn't just run, she hunted. She checked into hotels along the Gulf Coast, moving every few days. And while she was there, she was shopping. Not for clothes or souvenirs, for a replacement. Security footage from multiple locations shows her in hotel lobbies, resort bars, tourist restaurants. She's watching women, specifically white women in their 50s with blonde hair and similar builds. She was looking for someone who looked like her. Investigators would later piece together that Lois visited at least 7 different hotels before she found Pamela Hutchinson. Pamela was on vacation, solo trip. She'd recently gone through a divorce and was taking time to figure out her next chapter. She was friendly, outgoing, the kind of person who chats with strangers at the hotel bar. She met Lois in the lobby of the Surf Club Resort on Fort Myers Beach. They talked for hours, bonded over their divorces, their shared love of the beach, their similar life trajectories. Pamela thought she'd made a friend, a connection. Lois thought she'd found a solution. On April 9, 2018, Lois went to Pamela's hotel room. The pretense was to share a bottle of wine, to continue the conversation from the night before. Pamela welcomed her in. Lois shot her in the chest. Then she took Pamela's ID, her credit cards, her car keys, and her phone. She cleaned the scene methodically, wiped down surfaces, removed her own DNA, staged the room to look like Pamela had simply left. And then she became Pamela. The perfect impersonation. For 13 days, Lois Riess lived as Pamela Hutchinson. She used Pamela's credit cards, drove Pamela's car, checked into hotels using Pamela's ID. She dyed her hair to match Pamela's shade of blonde, wore Pamela's clothes, practiced Pamela's signature until it was perfect. And here's the detail that's going to make your skin crawl. She texted Pamela's friends and family. Short messages, nothing elaborate. Having a great time, extending my trip. Love you guys. Pamela's friends didn't suspect anything. Why would they? The messages sounded like her. The phone was hers. Everything seemed normal. Except Pamela had been dead for over a week. What finally caught Lois wasn't detective work, it was technology. Surveillance systems at casinos are sophisticated. Facial recognition, pattern analysis, license plate readers. When Lois used Pamela's credit card at a casino in South Padre Island, Texas, the system flagged it. Not because of the card itself, but because the same card was being used in multiple states within hours, a pattern consistent with theft. Security called police. Police ran the plates on Pamela's car. The plates pinged back to a missing person report in Florida. When officers approached Lois in the casino parking lot, she didn't run. She didn't resist. She just smiled. I knew this was coming. I'm actually relieved. In prison interviews, Lois Riess showed no remorse for killing her husband. She was going to turn me in, she said. I couldn't let that happen. But when asked about Pamela Hutchinson, her tone changed. That one I regret. She was nice. We could have been friends. The interviewer pressed, but you killed her. I needed to be someone else, and she was available. What makes someone shop for a victim? This is different from what we've seen before. Jeffrey Spaide killed in rage, Stephen McDaniel killed out of obsession, Susan Lorincz killed out of fear and hatred, Daniel Wozniak killed for money, but Lois Riess killed for identity. She didn't want Pamela's money, though she took it. She didn't want her car, though she drove it. She wanted to be Pamela, to step into a life that wasn't tainted with debt and warrants and a murdered husband. The psychologist who evaluated her diagnosed her with instrumental narcissism. She didn't see other people as humans. She saw them as resources, tools. Pamela wasn't a victim. She was a costume. And Lois only regretted killing her because the costume didn't fit for very long. Lois Riess is currently serving life without parole in Florida. She'll die in prison. But here's what keeps investigators up at night. She almost got away with it. If she'd stayed off the casino floors, if she'd just used cash, moved slower, been more patient,
She might still be out there, living as someone else, shopping for the next replacement when this one ran out of money.
What we uncovered today about religious crime was disturbing, but the investigation isn't over. We are currently digging into a network that makes this look like small change. To make sure you don't miss the file when we drop it, make sure you are subscribed. Case 6. Jason Pass, the Brooklyn Noise Executioner. The Proximity Killers, when neighbors become battlegrounds. Brooklyn, New York, October 2023. We're back to body camera footage, high definition, night vision capable. The officer is responding to a noise complaint, third one this week from the same building. When he arrives, he finds two people screaming at each other in a hallway. The man is in a bathrobe, thin, pale, shaking with rage. The woman is in her pajamas. She's holding her phone, recording the interaction. The officer's camera captures everything. "He's been banging on my floor for 6 hours, the woman says. Her voice is hoarse from yelling. 6 hours. Because your kids are running. It's midnight. They need to stop. The officer tries to de-escalate. "Sir, let's take this inside your apartment." "No, I want her arrested. She's violating the lease. I have children. They live here. They're allowed to exist." The noise war that became a homicide. His name is Jason Pass, 47 years old, software engineer, works from home, lives alone in a rent-stabilized apartment he's occupied for 12 years. The woman's name is Vladimir Arzu, single mother, 3 children, moved into the apartment directly above Jason 6 months earlier. For 6 months, they've been at war. Noise disputes are the most common type of neighbor conflict in urban environments. Apartments with poor insulation, thin floors, old buildings never designed to house this many people this close together. Every footstep becomes an intrusion. Every conversation becomes an assault. Every moment of normalcy in one apartment becomes intolerable chaos in another. Jason Pass had filed 17 noise complaints in 6 months. 17. He documented every incident, timestamps, decibel readings using a phone app, videos of his ceiling fan shaking from the movement above. He believed he was building a case, proving his victimhood, establishing that he was the reasonable one and Vladimir was the problem. Vladimir, for her part, was just trying to survive. 3 kids in a 2-bedroom apartment, working night shifts, barely holding things together, and this man below her was treating her children's existence like a crime. The body camera footage from that October night shows the officer trying to mediate. "Mr. Pass, I understand you're frustrated, but children make noise. That's what they do." "Not at midnight. It's 9:30. It feels like midnight when you're trying to sleep." The officer looks at Vladimir. "Can you try to keep them quieter?" She starts crying. "I do try. I put down rugs. I make them take off their shoes. I tell them to whisper. But they're kids. They forget. They run. They play. And every time they do, he bangs on the ceiling so hard, the lights shake." Jason's face twists. "Because you won't control them. They're children. Then move." The officer eventually gets them separated. Vladimir goes back to her apartment. Jason stands in the hallway for another 10 minutes, ranting about his rights as a tenant, about the lease violations, about the injustice of it all. The officer leaves. The building goes quiet. 4 days later, Jason Pass brings a gun to that hallway. Here's what happened, pieced together from multiple witness statements and surveillance footage. On the morning of October 27, 2023, Vladimir's children were getting ready for school. They were loud. Kids are loud, especially in the morning when they're late and can't find their shoes. Jason started banging on his ceiling, hard, with what sounded like a broomstick. One of the children yelled down through the floor, "Stop it! You're scaring my mom!"
Jason stopped banging. He got dressed, he retrieved his legally owned firearm, and he went upstairs. The hallway camera shows him knocking on Vladimir's door. When she answers, he doesn't say anything. He just shoots. 3 times, center mass, efficient, practiced. Vladimir collapses in the doorway. Her children are screaming inside the apartment. Jason stands there for a moment, the gun still in his hand, looking at what he's done. Then he goes back downstairs to his apartment and waits for police. When officers arrive, Jason is sitting on his couch. The gun is on the coffee table. He's calm, almost serene. "I just wanted peace," he says. "That's all. Just peace and quiet in my own home. Is that so much to ask?" The judge responded with something that cuts to the heart of everything we've been documenting. "Mr. Pass, you didn't want peace, you wanted control. And when you couldn't control your environment, you eliminated the people who disrupted it. That's not self-defense, that's tyranny." Jason Pass is serving 25 years to life. Vladimir Arzu's children are being raised by their grandmother. We're past the halfway point now, and if you're feeling exhausted, if you're feeling that particular kind of dread that comes from realizing how fragile the social contract really is, then you're feeling exactly what you should. Because here's the truth we've been circling. Every single one of these cases started with something trivial: snow, noise, children playing, a missing ATM card, the mundane friction of people living too close together. And every single one ended with someone dead. Not because these neighbors were monsters, but because they couldn't tolerate the gap between how they thought the world should work and how it actually worked. And when that gap became unbearable, they closed it with violence. The next cases are going to show you what happens when that violence becomes systematic, when neighbors don't just kill once, when they optimize, when proximity becomes a hunting ground. Stay with me. We're almost to the answer.
Case 7. Michael Keetley, the ice cream man. When vigilantes choose the wrong target. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, August 2010. There's a particular kind of vehicle that triggers childhood nostalgia. Ice cream trucks, the jingle, the bright colors, the promise of something sweet on a hot summer day. Michael Keetley drove one of those trucks, bright green, impossible to miss. He'd been selling ice cream in the Tacony neighborhood for years. Everyone knew him. Kids ran to his truck, parents waved. He was a fixture, harmless, friendly. The kind of neighbor you trust because he brings joy to children. But Michael Keetley wasn't thinking about ice cream in August 2010. He was thinking about revenge. 3 weeks earlier, Michael had been robbed. Someone broke into his truck while he was making a delivery, stole his cash box, about $300. Not a fortune, but to Michael, it was everything. He reported it to the police. They took a statement, filed a report, told him they'd investigate. But Michael didn't trust the system. He didn't want to wait for justice. He wanted to deliver it. So he started investigating on his own. He asked around the neighborhood who needed money, who'd been acting suspicious, who'd been watching his truck. Someone gave him a name, a house, an address. Someone gave him the wrong name. The house belonged to Luis and Tanya Rosario, working-class couple, 2 young children. They'd lived in the neighborhood for 5 years, kept to themselves mostly. Luis worked construction, Tanya cleaned houses. They had nothing to do with the robbery. But someone told Michael they did. Maybe it was mistaken identity, maybe it was malice, maybe someone just wanted to point Michael's rage in a direction, any direction. Michael believed them, and on August 7th, 2010, he decided to collect what he thought he was owed. Michael didn't just show up with anger, he showed up with a plan. He waited until 11 p.m., until the neighborhood was quiet, until children were asleep and couldn't see what their friendly ice cream man was about to do.
He parked his bright green truck 2 blocks away, then walked to the Rosario house carrying a pistol and a gallon of gasoline. His plan was simple: force his way in, retrieve his money, teach them a lesson they wouldn't forget. But when Luis Rosario answered the door and denied taking anything, when he had no idea what Michael was talking about, his plan collapsed into chaos. Witnesses later testified that they heard shouting, then gunshots, 3 of them, sharp cracks that echoed through the residential street. Luis Rosario was hit twice, once in the chest, once in the abdomen. Tanya ran to her children's room. Michael followed her, not to shoot her, but to threaten her, to make sure she understood this was justice. This was what happened to thieves. Except they weren't thieves. Michael realized this approximately 4 seconds too late, when he saw the terror in Tanya's eyes. When he looked around the modest house, no expensive items, no cash laying around, just the humble accumulation of a family trying to survive. He'd shot the wrong man, in the wrong house, for a crime that hadn't happened here. Michael ran, but here's the problem with driving an ice cream truck: you can't exactly blend in. Police found him 3 hours later, still in the truck, parked behind a grocery store. The weapon was in the glove compartment. The gasoline was in the back, sloshing next to boxes of frozen treats. When officers approached, Michael didn't resist. He just sat there, hands on the steering wheel, staring straight ahead. "I got the wrong house. Sir, I shot the wrong people. I thought they robbed me. Did they?" Long silence. No. Luis Rosario survived, barely. He spent 3 weeks in intensive care, required multiple surgeries, lost function in his left arm. The bullets had shredded muscle and nerve tissue in ways that no amount of physical therapy could fully repair. Tanya and her children were unharmed physically. Psychologically, that's a different story. Their daughter, who was 7 years old at the time, stopped eating ice cream. The sound of the jingles, those cheerful melodies that used to mean treats and happiness, now meant terror. She's 19 now, still won't eat ice cream. Michael Keetley's trial stretched across multiple years: appeals, delays, legal maneuvering. His defense tried to paint him as a desperate man, driven to extremes by a system that failed him. They argued he genuinely believed he was confronting the people who'd robbed him, that he'd acted out of a sense of justice, however misguided. The prosecution presented something simpler. This was attempted murder fueled by rage and amateur detective work. The jury heard testimony from the person who'd given Michael the Rosario's address, a teenager, a kid, who admitted he'd just guessed. He'd seen Luis working on a car late at night and thought that guy looked suspicious. That's all it took, a teenage guess, and Michael treated it as actionable intelligence. During his testimony, Michael broke down, not with remorse for shooting Luis, but with frustration at his own incompetence. "I should have been more careful. You should have called the police," the prosecutor interrupted. "They weren't doing anything. So you decided to do it yourself. Someone had to." This is the vigilante's eternal justification. Someone had to. As if violence is inevitable, as if there's no choice between inaction and execution. Michael Keetley was convicted of attempted murder, aggravated assault, and weapons violations. He was sentenced to 30 to 60 years. He'll likely die in prison. Luis Rosario still lives in Philadelphia. He gave one interview 5 years after the shooting. The reporter asked him if he'd forgiven Michael. "Forgiveness isn't mine to give. He didn't just shoot me, he shot my family's sense of safety. He shot my daughter's childhood. You can't forgive what keeps happening."
Case 8. David Fuller, the UK electrician neighbor.
Tunbridge Wells, Kent, England, December 2020. When police executed a search warrant on David Fuller's house, they expected to find evidence of 2 murders, cold cases from 1987, Wendy Knell and Caroline Pierce, both strangled in their homes,
both unsolved for 33 years. What they found was evidence of 100. David Fuller was 67 years old when they arrested him. He'd lived in the same town his entire life, married, children, grandchildren. He worked as a hospital electrician, steady job, good reputation. He was the kind of neighbor who fixed things. If your outlet wasn't working, David knew how to repair it. If your building needed rewiring, David's name came up. Reliable, skilled, professional. He had keys to half the buildings in Kent. And for 40 years, he'd been using them. The hard drives police found in his home contained over 4 million images and videos. 4 million. Not downloaded from the internet, created by him, filmed by him, documented with the precision of someone who treated his crimes like a career. The footage showed David entering hospitals where he worked, using his employee access, his keys, his security clearance, walking into morgues, into secured wings, into places where the most vulnerable people, the unconscious, the medicated, the deceased, couldn't resist him. He'd been doing this since the 1980s. Wendy Knell was 25 when David Fuller murdered her, June 1987. She was found in her apartment in Tunbridge Wells, strangled, sexually assaulted, no signs of forced entry. 5 months later, Caroline Pierce, 20 years old, found in a field, same method, same brutality. Both cases went cold. No DNA databases yet, no CCTV networks, just old-fashioned detective work that led nowhere. For 33 years, David Fuller lived 20 minutes from these crime scenes, raised his family, went to work, attended neighborhood events. He was there, in the community, a neighbor. No one suspected him. In 2020, advances in DNA technology allowed investigators to reprocess evidence from both crime scenes. Forensic genetic genealogy, the same technique that caught the Golden State Killer in California, finally identified a match: David Fuller. When they arrested him, he confessed immediately, not with remorse, with relief. "I've been waiting for this," he said. "I knew you'd find me eventually." The detective asked why he didn't just turn himself in. "Because I wasn't finished." David's home office looked normal at first glance. Desk, computer, filing cabinets, the usual accumulation of a long career. But the filing cabinets weren't filled with work documents. They were filled with hard drives, meticulously labeled, organized by location and year. Hospital A, 2008 to 2012. Hospital B, 2013 to 2018. He'd created an archive, a catalog of violations spanning decades. Forensic analysts spent months reviewing the footage. They identified over 100 victims. Most were deceased. David had accessed morgues and funeral homes, violating bodies that couldn't report him. But some were alive, unconscious patients in hospitals where he worked, medicated, vulnerable, unaware. The hospitals conducted internal investigations. How had he accessed these areas? How had no one noticed? The answer was devastatingly simple. He was supposed to be there. Electricians access every part of a hospital: electrical rooms, basements, storage areas. Morgues need electrical maintenance just like any other room. When security saw David on camera, they saw an employee doing his job. The uniform, the toolbox, the employee badge, it was all legitimate. Except for what he did when no one was watching. The psychologist who evaluated David described him as functionally psychopathic, not in the Hollywood sense. He wasn't a genius or a mastermind. He was just
absent of empathy. He could chat with coworkers about football, help a neighbor fix their wiring, attend his grandchildren's school plays, and then go to work and violate corpses. These two activities didn't conflict in his mind because he didn't see victims as people. They were objects, opportunities, things that existed for his use when circumstances permitted. During his interview, the detective asked, "Did you ever think about the families, the people who loved these victims?" David paused, not because he was emotional, but because he genuinely seemed confused by the question. "No," he said, finally. "Why would I?" "Because you violated their loved ones. They were already dead. It didn't hurt them. It hurt their families." David shrugged. "I didn't know their families." This is the architecture of his thinking. If he couldn't see the harm directly, it didn't exist. The victims weren't people with families and histories and people who loved them. They were just available. David Fuller's trial in 2021 became a national scandal in the UK, not just because of what he'd done, but because of how long he'd been allowed to do it. Hospital administrators testified, security directors, supervisors, all of them trying to explain how an employee had been committing atrocities for decades without detection. The answer kept coming back to the same thing: trust. They trusted him because he was reliable, because he'd worked there for years, because he had the right credentials. They never audited his access logs, never questioned why he was in certain areas, never followed up when he worked unusual hours. He was a trusted employee, and trusted employees don't get scrutinized. Victim families testified. Some of them only learned their loved ones had been violated when police contacted them during the investigation. One woman broke down on the stand. Her mother had died in 2015. She'd been in the morgue for 3 days before the funeral. "I thought she was at peace," she said. "I thought those 3 days were, I don't know, her final rest. But he was there. He was there. And I'll never be able to think about her death without seeing his face." This is the eternal damage of David Fuller's crimes. Not just what he did, but how he poisoned memory, how he corrupted the one space, death, that's supposed to be sacred. David Fuller pleaded guilty to 2 counts of murder and multiple counts of sexual penetration of corpses. He was sentenced to life in prison with a whole life order, meaning he will never be released. The judge, in his sentencing remarks, said, "You have shown yourself to be a depraved and cunning individual. You hid in plain sight for decades, using your position of trust to commit acts that are beyond comprehension. The families of your victims will never know peace, and you will never see freedom again." David showed no reaction. After sentencing, hospitals across the UK implemented new protocols, mandatory access audits, 2-person rules for certain areas, cameras in morgues. All things that should have existed already. All things that didn't, because no one imagined someone would do what David Fuller did.
Case 9. William Roddy Bryan, the Ahmaud Arbery neighbor. Brunswick, Georgia, February 23, 2020. William Roddy Bryan lived in Satilla Shores, a coastal neighborhood. Quiet, working class, the kind of place where people know their neighbors, where everyone waves, where a black man jogging through the streets stands out. On this particular Sunday afternoon, Roddy was home. He saw his neighbors, Gregory and Travis McMichael, driving their truck, fast, pursuing something, someone. Roddy made a decision. He grabbed his cell phone, got in his truck, and joined the chase. And he filmed the whole thing.
The video is 2 minutes and 36 seconds long. It's shaky, phone camera quality, the kind of footage that's clearly being filmed while driving. It shows a black man running down a residential street. Ahmaud Arbery, 25 years old, wearing running shorts and a white t-shirt. Behind him, a white pickup truck. Gregory McMichael in the bed, holding a shotgun. His son driving. And behind them, William Roddy Bryan, filming with one hand while steering with the other. The video is horrifying, not just for what it shows, but for how it shows it. Roddy isn't filming as a witness documenting a crime. He's filming as a participant, documenting what he thinks is justified. His commentary, picked up faintly on the audio, treats this like an event, like something worth capturing. "Got him," you can hear him say at one point, not with horror, with satisfaction. The video shows Ahmaud trying to run around the McMichael's truck, trying to escape. The truck cuts him off. Roddy's truck boxes him in from behind. Ahmaud has nowhere to go. The video shows Travis McMichael stepping out with the shotgun, shows the brief struggle, shows the moment Travis fires. 3 shots. Ahmaud falls. The video keeps recording for another 47 seconds, shows Ahmaud on the ground, shows Travis standing over him, shows Gregory making a phone call, shows Roddy parking his truck and walking closer to get a better angle. When police arrived, Roddy was still there, still holding his phone. He showed them the video proudly. "I got the whole thing, the whole chase. You can see he was trying to get away. We had him trapped." The officer asked, "Why were you chasing him?" Greg said there'd been break-ins, said this guy matched the description. "What description?" Roddy paused. "Just the description." Here's what investigators learned. There had been no recent break-ins in Satilla Shores, no reports, no complaints. Gregory McMichael, a former police officer and investigator, had seen Ahmaud jogging through the neighborhood multiple times, had seen him enter a house under construction, a house that many neighbors had walked through because it had no doors or windows yet. Gregory decided Ahmaud was suspicious, not because of anything Ahmaud did, but because Ahmaud was black and jogging and in their neighborhood. On February 23rd, when Gregory saw Ahmaud run past his house again, he armed himself and his son, got in their truck, and gave chase. And when Roddy saw them driving fast, he didn't call police. He didn't ask what was happening. He just assumed his neighbors were right, and he joined in. Initially, no one was arrested. The local police watched Roddy's video, interviewed all 3 men, and accepted their explanation. They were attempting a citizen's arrest. They believed Ahmaud had committed a crime. The fact that Ahmaud hadn't committed any crime, that didn't seem to matter. For 74 days, Gregory, Travis, and Roddy Bryan remained free. The case was closed, justified. Then, Roddy's video leaked online. The video went viral in May 2020, millions of views within hours. It sparked protests, outrage, demands for justice. Not because people needed to see what happened, the facts were already known, but because watching it made the horror visceral. You could see Ahmaud trying to escape. You could see the trucks boxing him in. You could see that this wasn't a citizen's arrest. This was a hunting party. And Roddy had documented himself as a participant. Within 48 hours of the video's release, all 3 men were arrested. Gregory McMichael was charged with murder. Travis McMichael was charged with murder. Roddy Bryan was charged as an accomplice, felony murder, because his participation in the chase had enabled the killing. Roddy's defense tried to argue he was just a witness, just someone filming. He didn't have a weapon, didn't threaten Ahmaud, didn't shoot anyone. But the prosecution presented the video itself as evidence.
"Watch what he does," the prosecutor said in court. "He doesn't film from a safe distance. He uses his truck to cut off escape routes. He coordinates with the McMichaels. He boxes Ahmad in. Without Mr. Bryan's participation, Ahmad Arbery might have escaped. He might be alive." The jury watched the video multiple times, frame by frame. They saw Roddy's truck swerve to block Ahmad's path, saw him accelerate to keep up, saw him position his vehicle strategically. He wasn't documenting a crime, he was committing one. The trial lasted 3 weeks, November 2021. Gregory McMichael testified that he was trying to protect his neighborhood, that Ahmad had been casing houses, that he had the right to pursue and detain him. Travis McMichael testified that he shot in self-defense, that Ahmad grabbed his shotgun, that he feared for his life. Roddy Bryan testified that he was just helping his neighbors, that he didn't know anyone would get hurt, that he was just there. The defense tried to paint Ahmad suspicious, dangerous. They pointed to his criminal record, minor theft charges from years earlier. They claimed he wasn't just jogging, that he had entered the construction site with intent to steal. The prosecution countered with a simple question. Even if that were true, even if Ahmad Arbery had walked through a construction site, does that justify hunting him down and killing him? The jury deliberated for 11 hours. Guilty on all counts. Gregory McMichael, life without parole. Travis McMichael, life without parole. Roddy Bryan, life with the possibility of parole after 30 years. When the verdict was read, Roddy showed no emotion, just sat there staring at the table in front of him. Later, a juror gave an interview, said Roddy's video was what convinced them, not because it showed the shooting clearly, that was already documented, but because it showed Roddy's intent. You could hear it in his voice, the way he said, "Got him," like this was something to celebrate, like they'd won. Roddy Bryan filmed Ahmad Arbery's murder because he was proud to be part of it. He thought he was documenting heroism, neighbors protecting their community, citizens taking action when the law wouldn't. He thought the video would exonerate them, prove they were justified. But it became the evidence that destroyed them. Because when you watch that video, when you see 3 white men in trucks chasing one unarmed black man through a residential neighborhood, you don't see protection, you see a lynching. And Roddy Bryan filmed his own participation in it.
Case 10. Stephen Port, the Masterchef Stalker. Barking, East London, 2014-2015. If you search for Stephen Port Masterchef, you'll find him. A clip from the 2013 season. He's in the kitchen, wearing an apron, nervously laughing as he presents his dish to the judges. He's awkward, endearing even, the kind of contestant the audience roots for because he's so clearly out of his depth, but trying his best. The judges taste his food. They're polite, encouraging. Good effort, Stephen. Nice flavors. He beams. While that episode was airing, there were already 2 bodies within a mile of his apartment. By the time the season finished, there would be 4. Stephen Port worked as a bus depot chef, industrial kitchen, cooking for drivers. Not glamorous, but he loved food, loved cooking shows, loved the idea that he could be on one. When he got selected for Celebrity MasterChef, he told everyone, his co-workers, his neighbors, the men he talked to on dating apps, "I'm going to be on TV," he'd say. "I'm going to be famous." He was friendly, a bit lonely, the kind of person who seemed desperate for connection. Neighbors felt sorry for him. He was always trying so hard, one neighbor said later, to be liked, to fit in. It was almost sad. Stephen's flat was small, 1 bedroom, ground floor, easy access. He kept it clean, organized. He had a kitchen he was proud of, more equipment than most home cooks because he took it seriously. And he had a cabinet
filled with GHB, gamma-hydroxybutyrate, a sedative, a party drug. In small doses, it makes people euphoric. In larger doses, it paralyzes them. In fatal doses, it stops their breathing. Stephen had been experimenting with doses for years. Anthony Walgate, 23 years old, fashion student. He met Stephen through a dating app in June 2014. Stephen's profile presented him as a successful chef, cultured, interesting. He talked about his TV appearance, about his passion for cooking, about wanting to meet someone special. Anthony agreed to visit. Stephen offered to cook dinner. "I'll make you something special," Stephen texted. "I'm really good at this, you'll see." Anthony arrived at Stephen's flat around 9 p.m. Neighbors saw them enter together. Anthony looked happy, comfortable. This wasn't a threatening situation. This was a date. Stephen cooked. They ate. They drank wine. Except Stephen's wine had GHB in it. When Anthony lost consciousness, Stephen didn't call for help, didn't panic. He just watched. This is what Stephen had been fantasizing about for years. Total control. Someone completely at his mercy, unable to resist, unable to judge him, unable to leave. He documented it, took photos, and when Anthony stopped breathing, when the GHB dose proved fatal, Stephen carefully dressed the body, called a cab, and had the driver help him move what he claimed was his drunk friend outside. He left Anthony's body propped against a wall near his building, made it look like an overdose, someone who'd taken drugs and collapsed. When police found Anthony the next morning, they investigated it as exactly that. Accidental overdose, tragic, but not suspicious. They interviewed Stephen, since the body was found near his flat. "Yeah, I saw him last night. We had a date. He seemed nice, but then he left, said he had to go. I didn't know he used drugs." Police believed him. 3 months later, September 2014, Gabriel Kovari, 22 years old, meeting Stephen the same way. Dating app, promise of dinner, a friendly chef who just wanted company. Gabriel's body was found in a graveyard near Stephen's flat. No signs of violence, GHB in his system, another overdose. Police didn't connect it to Anthony's death. Different location, different victim profile, just coincidence. 2 months later, November 2014, Daniel Whitworth, 21 years old, found in the same graveyard as Gabriel, with a suicide note in his pocket, claiming he'd accidentally killed Gabriel and couldn't live with the guilt. Police read the note, closed both cases. Murder-suicide, tragic, but solved. Except Daniel hadn't written that note. Stephen had.
He'd forged it, carefully, used language he thought a suicidal person would use, created a narrative that would close the investigation, and it worked. During this entire time, between murders, Stephen was living his normal life. He went to work, cooked for bus drivers, chatted about food. He attended social events. He talked about wanting to get back on TV, about how much fun Masterchef had been. He was on dating apps constantly, chatting with men, offering to cook for them. Some accepted, some declined. The ones who declined stayed alive. The ones who accepted his invitation to dinner, some of them died in his flat. And Stephen kept their photos, their messages, their final moments. He'd created an archive, just like David Fuller, except Stephen's archive was on his phone, in cloud storage, organized by date. He treated his crimes like a hobby, something to remember fondly, something to revisit when he was bored. The answer is tragic, because the victims were young, gay men. Because police assumed drug use, assumed risky behavior, assumed these deaths were the victim's fault. It's called the no humans involved phenomenon. When marginalized people die, investigations are less thorough, patterns are less obvious, justice is less urgent. Stephen Port understood this,
Maybe not consciously, but he understood that he could keep killing because no one was really looking. Jack Taylor, 25 years old, September 2015. The fourth victim, found near Stephen's flat. Same drug, same method. This time, Jack's family refused to accept the overdose narrative. Jack didn't use drugs, didn't have access to GHB. Something was wrong. They pushed police, demanded reinvestigation, hired their own investigators, and finally, someone looked at the map. 4 deaths, all young men, all within a half-mile radius, all involving GHB, all connected to the same dating apps. Police obtained Stephen's phone records, his dating app messages, his location data. He'd been in contact with all 4 victims, had invited them to his flat, was the last person to see them alive. In October 2015, they arrested Stephen Port. In the interview room, Stephen tried every role. Stephen Port was convicted of 4 murders and multiple sexual assaults, life without parole. The trial triggered a massive investigation into police failures. An independent review found that officers had missed obvious connections, had dismissed families' concerns, had failed to protect vulnerable people because of biases about who deserves justice. The review concluded with a statement that should haunt everyone. Stephen Port was allowed to kill because we didn't value his victims enough to look closely. First, he was the innocent neighbor. I don't know what you're talking about. I barely knew these guys. When police presented the messages, he switched roles. Now he was the victim. They came to my flat. They wanted drugs. I warned them. I told them to be careful. When police presented the forensic evidence, GHB in his flat, his DNA on the bodies, he tried a new performance, the remorseful addict. I have a problem. I use GHB myself. Maybe I shared it with them. Maybe I gave them too much by accident. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. But the evidence was too overwhelming. The forged suicide note, the photos on his phone, the deliberate disposal of bodies. This wasn't accidental. This was systematic. Finally, Stephen stopped performing. His face went blank, empty. I just wanted someone to stay, he said quietly. Everyone always left, but when they were unconscious, they stayed. They couldn't leave, and for a few hours, I wasn't alone. The detective sat back. So you killed them. I didn't want them to die. I just wanted them to stay.
10 cases, 10 neighbors, 10 different methods. But the same pattern underneath it all. They were there, in the building, on the street, in the community, close enough to be trusted, close enough to be invisible. And they used that proximity, that normalcy, to do the one thing neighbors are never supposed to do. They crossed the line. Not just the property line, but the line between human and predator, between neighbor and threat, between the person you wave to in the morning and the person who takes everything from you. And here's the final terrible truth. You'll never know which neighbors are on which side of that line until it's too late.